So let us discuss about unsaturation factor. Consider C2H6 molecule. So this is C2H6. Now if I remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can connect these two carbon. So basically what we are doing, so now this slot is open, this slot is open, and we can connect these two carbon to form a double bond. So this compound has a formula of C2H4. So there is a loss of 2 hydrogen. This kind of hydrocarbon in which we does not have any double bond is called saturated hydrocarbon. And this hydrocarbon that has a double bond or triple bond is called unsaturated hydrocarbon. Now we define unsaturation factor, that is, if I have two loss of hydrogen, then we say this compound has one unsaturation factor. So in this case, unsaturation factor is 1. This means if I have two less hydrogen corresponding to unsaturated hydrocarbon, in this case we will have unsaturation factor is equals to 1. If I have 4 less hydrogen, we will define unsaturation factor 2. So 4 less hydrogen, unsaturation factor is 2. Now if I have 6 less hydrogen, unsaturation factor is 3. Similarly, if I have 8 less hydrogen, we will define unsaturation factor is 4. Now let us discuss more about unsaturation factor 1. There are two possibilities by which we can make unsaturation factor 1. One possibility is we can create a double bond. Another possibility is we can form a ring. For example, if I have this hydrocarbon and I can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can connect this carbon and this carbon. If I connect these two carbon, we will have a 3-membered ring, and each carbon will have 2 hydrogen. In this case again, formula of compound is C3H6. That is, one should expect for 3 carbon, saturated hydrocarbon will have 8 hydrogen. That is, formula is CnH2n plus 2. This is the formula for saturated hydrocarbon. This means if I have 3 hydrogen, one will expect 3 into 2 plus 2, that is 8 hydrogen. But we have only 6 hydrogen, that is we have 2 less hydrogen. So in this case again, unsaturation factor is 1. So there are two ways by which we can achieve unsaturation factor 1. One possibility is we can create a double bond. Another possibility is we can create a ring. Now not necessarily this double bond and ring should always include between carbon to carbon. It can be between carbon and oxygen. For example, if I have this molecule, I can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can make a double bond between carbon and oxygen. So in this case again, basically we have a hydrogen. So in this case again we have a unsaturation factor 1 because we have a double bond. We can also have a double bond between carbon and nitrogen. So let us consider this compound. We can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can form this compound. This compound will also have unsaturation factor 1, that is, it has a double bond. Similarly, we can form a ring. For example, we have CH3, CH2, OH. Now we can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can connect carbon and oxygen by a ring. So we have a three-membered ring, carbon, carbon and then oxygen. This carbon has two hydrogen, this carbon has two hydrogen, and oxygen both valency is fulfilled. So this case again we have one ring. So unsaturation factor is 1. We can have a ring that contains nitrogen. For example, so let us say we have one more carbon in the middle, and now we can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can connect carbon and nitrogen, and then we'll form a three-membered ring. So here we have a nitrogen, hydrogen, carbon contains two hydrogen, and nitrogen has one hydrogen, and this carbon also has two hydrogen. So in this case again we have one ring. So unsaturation factor is 1. Now let us discuss about unsaturation factor 2. So we discussed about unsaturation factor 1. So whenever you have unsaturation factor 1, you can have a ring or you can have a double bond. Now let us say unsaturation factor 2. Now let us consider this compound. Now I can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen to make a double bond. Now this compound has a unsaturation factor 1. Now we can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen to make a triple bond between these two carbon. So this compound has unsaturation factor of 2. This means unsaturation factor 2, it can have a triple bond. So if I have a triple bond, it has unsaturation factor of 2. We can have another possibility. So we can have one triple bond, unsaturation factor 2. Now let us consider this compound. I can remove one hydrogen to get a double bond between these two carbon. We can also remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen to get a double bond between these two carbon. So we have basically removed this hydrogen also. So this compound has two double bond, and we have removed 4 hydrogen. So there is a loss of 4 hydrogen. So this has unsaturation factor of 2. So this means compound having 2 double bond also have unsaturation factor 2. For example, we can have another situation. We can remove this hydrogen, this hydrogen, this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can form this compound. So one double bond between carbon-carbon, another double bond between carbon-oxygen. This also has unsaturation factor 2 because it has 2 double bond. So for unsaturation factor 2, we have two possibilities. One possibility is it can have a triple bond or it can have a 2 double bond. We have one more possibility. So let us consider this compound. We can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen to form a double bond between these two carbon, and we can remove this hydrogen and this hydrogen, and we can connect these two carbons to form a ring. What will happen in this case? So these 3 carbon will form a ring. So this has hydrogen, hydrogen. Each carbon will have 2 hydrogen. This will have only 1 hydrogen. And this carbon is connected to this carbon, and this carbon will have a double bond. And this carbon will have 2 hydrogen. And this carbon will have a hydrogen. So in this case again, unsaturation factor is 2 because we have removed 4 hydrogen. So there is a loss of 4 hydrogen. So we have unsaturation factor of 2. So in this case, we have one ring and a double bond. So one double bond. So you see, for unsaturation factor 2, we have 3 possibilities. We can have one triple bond. We can have 2 double bond. Or we can have one ring and a double bond.